everyone, welcome back to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and I am back today revisiting the most recent Upcrate because it is time for the Upcrate battle. And the prompt for this is Unexpected Friends. And you will also be pleased to know that I did find my 102 nib, which is the smallest nib in the set. So I have returned it to where I keep my nibs, so that's them. I'm back to a full complement. And I've got all my other bits and pieces here. A few other things that I've just brought along for the ride. I am going to water down this ink and use it with a paintbrush. So I've just got a little palette here so that I can do that. And I've also got some brushes and pipettes as well. And I've also got 3 empty watercolour half pans, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some of each of the colours of ink into these so that I can dip my nibs in them. Literally just sat down to film this and it started snowing really heavily and we were just getting to the stage where we're thawing out, so we're kind of back to square one, but it is Scotland. I'm very wary of these air bubbles because when they pop, the ink splatters everywhere. So I'm going to put the red in the middle because when they're just like plopped out like this, the black and the sepia look almost identical and I don't want to be making any mistakes. So the first thing I want to do is take my very hard, my 4H pencil, and we'll just get a little bit of sketching done. This should be, I was going to say fairly straightforward, well about as straightforward as we're going to get. So this, the prompt kind of sparked a sort of interesting to me idea in my head to do with symbiotic relationships. So a symbiosis is a mutually beneficial relationship normally attributed to animals or something in an ecosystem that is sort of basically mutually beneficial. So I use that very, very loosely. But one of the things that we see a lot, and there are specific breeds of bird that they talk about, but what we see at home here on the farm with the cows is that quite often we see little birds sitting on top of the cows, and what they do is they pick off all the little beasties, you know, like the ticks and the lice and things, so they get nutrition from it. And obviously for the cows that makes them a little bit more comfortable, especially in hot weather. So it's you know, it's a little bit beneficial for both. So I'm using that very, very loosely. So we are going to have a bird and cow combo here. That's kind of what I'm aiming for. So I have been drawing a lot of birds recently. It's just something I wanted to get better at. So I just thought this was a really good opportunity to continue that on. So one of the things I'm going to do is exaggerate the eyes slightly as well. I do want to give this a little bit of a sort of cutesy look. And I'm aware that at this precise moment, this drawing just looks like complete nightmare fuel. But that will change, I promise. I am very, very familiar with the anatomy of cows, unsurprisingly. And I really enjoy sort of playing with the proportions and things. Just because it's, you know, it's something that's very, very familiar to me. This is kind of fun for me because it's an animal that I'm familiar with. And it's funny because normally when I'm doing these kinds of videos, I generally tend to try things that I'm not familiar with and challenge myself. So it's actually quite nice every now and then just to come back to something that you know really well. So that's quite a nice feeling right now. I do want this to have a slightly more cartoonish feel to it, which is certainly something I'll be going for. I'm fascinated by cow nostrils. They're huge and complicated. So this is going to be a hairy-ish cow. Our cows just now have their winter coats, and especially the tops of their heads are particularly hairy, and their ears as well, which is always fun. But in the summer they're very smooth coated. So I feel like again that we're drawing this animal, and it is in fact, this time of year, and I feel as if we'll get a lot of use out of our nibs, and using a lot of different strokes if we've got lots of hair to draw as well. I feel that would be appropriate. Okay, so let's make a start with that. I'm reasonably happy with what I've got going on. A bit more light on the subject here. Oh. There we go, that's better. So we can see the cow and we've got our weeny little bird up the top here. So I think I'm going to start with the bird. And because it's such a small creature, I'm going to use one of the smaller nibs to do this. So I'm going to go with the 107. So that means I'm going to use the small nib holder as well. And let's see what we can do here. Maybe he's going to have a little tuft on his head. Why not? And once again, unsurprisingly, I am going to have a rather plump bird. Get his little belly. And then I don't think I want to put too much detail into his legs. I think we'll maybe just have them. It looks as if he's striking like a Saturday Night Fever pose. Then I've got his little face coming down here, and then I don't know what type of bird this is. This is just like an imaginary gem bird. We'll pop his little eyes in as well. Okay, he looks like a bird. He's waving. He's waving at his cow friend. Okay, so while we're waiting for him to dry, what I want to do is take some of this sepia ink. So I'm literally just going to take a drop of this because a little of this goes a long way. It's a little bit out of camera shot, there you go. And I've just got some clean water here, and I'm just using one of my plastic pipettes, and I am going to splodge a little bit in to begin with. Now I wasn't sure what kind of brush to use, so I'm using a synthetic brush because they tend to be not a one size fits all, but they tend to be suitable for most things. So I was just wanting to see the colour of the dilution, which is here, and I think when it dries that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for. So I'm just going to put down some base colour here. Now I'm going to be going over this, so I'm not overly bothered how we're looking in terms of brush strokes. You know, I'm kind of okay with what's going to happen here. Just really want some base colour. Now that's still quite concentrated, and it's still standing out quite well on the paper here. So yeah, and this brush seems to be okay. I should have told you what type of brush this was I was using, how rude. This is a number 4 round, and it's the Artspace synthetic brush. I think we actually got that in an Upcrate at one point. Okay, so this is really, really dark, and I don't want it as dark as this. So I'm going to flood with this with some more water. Okay, so we're pretty pale now. I just have to watch here with, you know, with contours and things. Because the good thing is you can always go in darker, but you can't necessarily go lighter. So I would rather go with a degree of caution here. I don't even know if that ink's dry there, but it seems to be okay. I've gone over the little dude's foot and it seems to be behaving itself. This is quite interesting because although we mainly here at home on the farm have Aberdeen Angus, which are mostly black cattle, we do have some, we call these dunny brown colour. They're like almost like a fawn colour. This is, and it's remarkably similar to the colour of Barbara. And some of you will know who Barbara is. It's just like almost like a base colour to work from. Now I know this paper's pretty hardy. Not that I'll be using much more in the way of water on it, but at least I know it can take, you know, a decent amount of water if we wanted to put some more stuff in, which is kind of cool. Well, this seems to be drying fairly quickly. Again, because we're only using it in very small amounts, then that's definitely worked in our favour. So I just want to take out some of the graphite here now. I want to finish the top of the cow's head before I look at his tail feathers, so we're going to leave that just now, but I can still work on him in his more detailed form. So I'm going to grab this little tiny nib now, which is the 102. That was the one that I couldn't find, if you remember. This is my favourite nib, and it's because it is teeny tiny. I like to use really small nibs for things, especially, you know, when I'm using fine liners. Like I do favour a very fine liner. Just looking out the cave window, and these flakes of snow that are like floating down past the window, they're massive, like they're the size of like a table tennis ball. So I want to give this little dude a little bit of colour, so I'm going to use this wee teeny tiny nib here to really put some texture and some indications in. And you can see this nib is just absolutely wonderful for this. Like really, really good. So there we go, give him a little red crest. He looks as if he's sporting a wee bit of a mohawk there. And I think we'll give him some on his belly as well. I really want to accentuate this this big round belly. Almost looks like a robin with a punk hairdo. And then he's like got an inverted head colour. That's quite funny. And if we make the gaps a bit bigger in this middle part, that kind of like shows the roundness, if you like, you know, if you stretch something. And I'm going to bring these down over the line that we've got for his tummy. I don't think that'll be an unpleasant aesthetic, especially on you know, considering that he's such a little dude. I'm a little bit concerned about letting this ink dry on the nibs because it's got resin in it. So I've got a little rag here and I'm just dipping it in water and then making sure I'm drying it off properly just to make sure. Right, so I'm going to go back to that 107, which was the one I used to outline our little friend. And I'm going to grab some of this sepia ink in its, I was going to say in its hardened form. What is wrong with me today? I've not been drinking, honestly. In its undiluted form. Jeez. And we'll maybe give him a little bit of detail on his wings. I see it just kind of looks black. I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but... And then I want to do his little tail feathers, but I'm going to have to wait. Kind of want to make his legs a bit thicker as well. Feel like he's standing on twigs. Now this bit under here is going to be quite a bit darker. So I'm back with the 102 nib and I'm in the black ink. And I'm just using this out of caution more than anything else. And it's just to make sure I don't make a mess of the eyes, and obviously if I've got a nice fine line then I have room to correct things. Pretty good. Oh no. Oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. It's not a disaster though, we'll live. Now I want to be very careful with this part here because this is the white of the eye and that's going to show us, you know, that the cow's looking up and it's going to give it that slightly sort of comical feel to it. So the other thing I want to do is just stick in where I'm going to have my highlights. So you can see just even as I'm doing this, a little of this ink, as the nib runs out, a little of this ink really does go a long way. I'm only re-dipping now. And see, this is such a tiny, delicate nib as well. Okay, I kind of feel like that's the hardest bit done now. So I can kind of like breathe a wee bit, relax. I'll probably end up coming back to this nib later, but I just wanted to get these sort of finer points in before descending into any sort of chaos. Okay, so I want to grab one of the bigger nibs now, and the 99 is the one with the really, really flexible tip on it. So I'm going to grab that now. So I should be able to get quite an expressive line now. Oh, goodness me. Just by pressing a little bit harder there. I was having a little look at these nibs online, just satisfying a curiosity, and the actual calligraphy nibs for writing, you do get left-handed versions, which was something I talked about a little bit in the unboxing video, which I think is really, really cool, and I'm glad that there's such a thing exists. Not being into calligraphy, obviously it's not something that I have investigated at any great length. So I want to make sure she looks as if she's smiling now here, our cow friend, because she's happy that our little birdie pal's appeared. She looks quite happy, doesn't she? She almost looks like a donkey. Ah, jeez. Ah, jeez. Okay. So the other thing I want to use this for is to get this area around the eye, because the thing about cows is that they've got really thick sort of membranes, like everything's really thick and rubbery, like their noses, and you know, they're just because they're made of like big tough hide. And one of the things they have is this skin area around their eyes it looks as if they've got massive layers of like thick eyeliner on, especially in darker coloured cows. So I really want to just kind of get some of that in, and this tip's great for this because obviously round this edge just turns into massive eyelashes. So I don't want to make that like hugely obvious. I don't want to give her like massive eyelashes, but I do want to get in this nice thick sort of outer ring. It is one of my favourite parts of cows. I love cows' eyes. They're just amazing. So we'll do this bottom edge as well. So here we go, I'm really testing the ability to fill in here. I was going to use a paintbrush for this, but I kind of felt it was cheating a wee bit. It's one thing doing washes and whatnot, but I think it's quite another to, you know, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Yes, look at her eye. Isn't she just adorable? I do feel that her eyelashes aren't pronounced enough. Okay, I was just wanting to make sure that this bottom part is dry, because the next thing that I want to do, which I suppose is a little bit risky really, but we'll soon find out, is I want to really water down this red ink, and I want to get it to a sort of pinky colour, and I'm going to use that for our nose. Granted, most cattle that are dark tend to have dark mucous membranes as well. You'll see it in dogs, you know, if you've got a dark coloured dog, sometimes inside their mouth they've got black patches. Same thing with cows. But every now and then you get one that's just that little bit different, and we think we can safely assume that our friend here is a little bit different. Yeah, okay, so we'll plunk loads of water in here. Now again, I'm assuming that this is going to be really concentrated, and I do want it to be quite delicate. Got this centre well here. Oh wow, did you see that? That is insane. I've just got a little scrap of paper here, and I'm just going to test it out on here before I do anything crazy. And that's fairly delicate, so I'm happy with that. So I'll just make sure that my paintbrush is clean here, which I think it is. And I'm just going to give her a little bit of a wash. And that's just coming up lovely on this paper, you know, against this background. Again, these areas on cows is not completely smooth. It is actually quite rough, and they've got kind of like, it's almost like little knobbly bits on, especially down round here. But we'll put them in separately. But this is just going on like an absolute dream. And then up this top part, if anywhere's going to be paler, it tends to be this top section, like over the top of the nose. And if it's a dark colour, it tends to go into like a bluish grey up at the top here. That is absolutely perfect. That was completely and utterly what I was hoping for. I do this quite often as well. I like to complete one eye, and it kind of like serves as a reference for the other eye, if that makes sense. Some people find it easier to do each element together, you know, so you do eyelashes in one and then the other, because they find it easier to replicate things if you do it straight after, you know, one after the other, which I understand. But see, I tend to, especially when I don't have a fully formed idea in my head, you know, I didn't draw this out in its entirety before I started this challenge, so it serves better for me to use a reference rather than a repetition. If I'd done a sort of full rendered, or even halfway to what I was planning, then I might use that method, you know, and go straight one after the other for the different sections, but I feel that this way works better. So I'm just going to build up this area around the eye now. Here she's going to have her little eyelashes. Oh, we've got a blockage. Oh no! Oh, I had a big clump of ink on the end there. So I'm just going to build up some more layers here. I'm really impressed at how well this ink's spreading across this paper. I know I was a big advocate for this paper anyway, but I didn't know how it was going to react to this sort of thing. So yeah, I want to start another layer of this brown colour in this centre section. So making my strokes a little bit more deliberate here. And I just want to accentuate this outside edge of the ear. Okay, I'm going to take the 56 nib now. No, I'm not. I'm going to take the 99. I've just realised I got them mixed up. The one I was using earlier, I'm pretty sure I said was the 99, and it wasn't. It was the 512. The one I'm using now is the really flexible one, which is the 99. And to be honest, I don't know how well the sepia is going to show up. I just feel as if even, you know, when it dries, it still looks really, really dark. But we're going to try here now anyway. And I'm going to grab this sepia ink, and we're going to start to give our little cow friend here some hair. So we'll start subtly, and we'll start down here. See, this just looks really, really dark to me. And I'm not even sure that it's gonna dry any lighter. But you get much more expressive strokes with this because of the flexibility in the tip here. And I just want to take my time and build this up very, very slowly. So we want to give her a bit of a hairdo. So I'm going to start with some of these hairs here, and you can see that I'm just pressing down at the last kick, and that's given me this lovely split. We'll just have to take our time, let some of this dry. We're going to end up with really muddy hair, and I don't want that. I have a feeling I should maybe have diluted this and just use this dip nib, but oh goodness me, I'm a little bit late now, but never mind. Lesson learned for next time. Just want to get some shading in here. So I'm just dipping into the diluted stuff. I know it's slightly off camera here. So this is the slightly diluted sepia from earlier that I used with the brush. We'll see what that dries like. This is all very experimental. Now that kind of makes me want to do the same down the middle here, because our face is still going to be hairy, but this isn't actually part of her. I want to call it our mane, you know, so that we can tell the difference, because as I said, they are sort of quite hairy all over when they've got their winter coats, but they do have like a definite defined tuft that belongs to the top of their head. It just happens to sort of fall down all over everywhere else as well. So we'll just do this first before I put in any more of the hair on top of her head. Oh, I've just dipped that in the red ink. Oh God. We were doing so well as well. So there we are. We're getting a little bit of texture without, you know, taking over the entire drawing, which is really nice. And when that dries, it's going to be quite subtle. The other thing that I think this would be really good for is people are amazed at how many whiskers cows have. And they do have a lot of whiskers. I don't think they actually serve any purpose, to be perfectly honest. But they do have a lot of and they're really short, bristly. You know, they're not soft or anything, and they've got loads on their chin as well. Like they do have. So we'll just pop them in while we're here, because this diluted sepia is perfect for this. I have to say, this is a fairly pretty cow. So I'm trying to use quite a sharp motion, but it's kind of a toss-up between, you know, the speed and pressure, so that you get the desired effect. Oh, that was a bit wonky. We'll not be too persnickety about that. I would normally put texture on this top part of the nose, but I feel as if it would kind of ruin things a little bit, so I think I'm going to kind of like steer clear of that, to be honest. Not for any specific reason other than it just feels like the right thing to do. I don't know why. Don't ask, because I don't know why. Okay, so let's go back to the neat sepia now. And I think we'll try and get in some more of her hairdo on this side. I'm trying to avoid what I've just painted, what I've just drawn, sorry. And it's not it's not the easiest thing to do right now. I'm strangely in love with this. I think I may have something wrong with me. I'm feeling like lots of love for the cows just now. We've just started calving. Well, when I say we've just started, we've been at it a couple of weeks now. And I'm very impressed with the mothering instinct of our first time mummies. They're doing super well. And hardly any interjections at all, which is what we want. We try and leave them. I'm really struggling to get a good angle on this. You know, we're very much like to leave them be and let them do their thing on their own as much as possible. Don't like to intervene unless we have to. This nib is rubbish for that. I should have switched back to the other nib. Too late now. We'll get our hairy ears sorted out. I feel as if these ears need to be hairier, though, I'm not going to lie. Like, I feel as if this hair should be, like, way down here. It is drying slightly less harsh than the black, but it's not particularly noticeable, I wouldn't say. Now, see, this is where I'm going to have to try and even up this side. I might just manage that, though. I might get away with this. If I do, it's just a happy accident. Oh, look. Yeah, that actually looks okay. Never let it be said that I don't try and that I'm not resourceful. Okay, let's get some ear hair going on this side again. I'm just making sure everything's dry before I start leaning in things. Okay, so now what I want to do is grab my little paintbrush again. And I just want to put one very fine watered down layer in these sections here. Now I'm hoping that when that dries there is still going to be that nice area of distinction, and it looks like that is going to be the case because it's fairly light next to this centre section and that's when it's wet. Okay, really happy with that, really happy with that. So just to do some finishing touches, I'm going to go back to my 102. That's the wee teeny tiny one, and we just want to add in some bits and bobs here and there. I think I could probably say that these are frivolities, to be honest. You're not going to really notice these, but it's just something that I feel just, you know, gives it a more finished look. And that's why I love this little 102 nib, and this is why it's really the only one that I use. out of the speedball nibs. Oh, she's a sweetheart. Look at her. How could you not love that? And I'm going to grab my black ink now as well. And I just want to, again, add in a little bit more these nostrils. I'm a little bit disappointed, and I suppose it's my own fault for not testing it out first, but I was really hoping that this sepia was going to dry, you know, in its neat form. I mean, I was really hoping it was going to dry a little bit more, a little bit lighter. I feel as if it's kind of wasted on this paper. I don't know, maybe it's just, maybe I'm expecting too much. I'd like to make this area on her head a bit darker now as well. So that gives the illusion of it being thicker without actually adding in too many strands. I don't want to put any more strands in because I don't want all that to get muddied. I quite like the level of texture and detail I've got and the fact that there is definition in the strands. So now I just want to get in, and this is the other thing, this little 102 nib. These dots are tiny, you probably can't even see them. But that's kind of a good thing. Again, I could probably do this over her entire muzzle, but I just feel like that would take away from the kind of like simplistic joy that's going on here, because there is quite a lot of that going on. Cow noses are my favourite thing ever. I was going to say they're my favourite part of a cow, but their eyes are definitely the favourite part. I feel as if the bird looks like a different picture. Like, I don't feel as if these two fit together, and I think it's because we've got this beautifully sort of painted background on our cow. So I think, against my better judgment, I'm probably going to regret this. So please look at this just now while it's in this form, because I say I may live to regret this. But I think I might put a little bit of something on the bird. I think grey would probably be better because we've not done that yet. Okay, let's just go for it. So what if we just put a little bit down his wings here? Yeah, we don't have to do his whole body, I suppose. A little bit round the top of his. He's looking like a woodpecker. Okay, there we go, and just leave a little bit of white there. Okay. See, that just looks like the sepia. That really upsets me because there's not enough of a colour difference there. Oh boy. I think I am going to call this one done. I'm going to sign it, and I really want to sign it in my normal handwriting because these nibs might, you know, it might look cool, but being left-handed, probably not. Oh, look how good this is. Oh boy. That's like one of my worst signatures ever. Oh, okay, right guys, I think I am done. I've had really good fun with this. I've really enjoyed myself, and the fact that I've been drawing a cow's made it even more enjoyable for me, because I haven't drawn a cow in quite some time. I hope you have enjoyed this, and I'd love to hear your comments down below, either on what you're working on for your prompt, or what you think of our friends here. As always, when I do things like this, I am open for name suggestions for both our little birdie friend and of course the cow as well. So thank you very much for watching, everyone, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you back in the cave really soon for another video. Bye for now, everyone.